Welcome to Girl You Good. I'm Cassandra Pickett, licensed therapist turned clinic coach and speaker, helping high-achieving women lead their personal lives with the same clarity and confidence they bring everywhere else. Quick episodes, real talk, zero fluff. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about boundaries. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out of your life. They're about making it clear how to stay in connection. Today, we're going to bust the biggest boundary myths that could be holding you back. Let's kick things off with a conversation I have all the time with high-achieving women in my practice, especially the ones who lead like pros at work, but feel stuck when it comes to setting boundaries at home. Here's the truth. Boundaries create trust and connection, but so many of us have been taught to believe the opposite. Let's get into the 4 myths around boundaries that are probably shaping how you show up at home without even realizing it. So that first myth, boundaries damage relationships. It's the lack of boundaries that damages relationships. Picture this friend. They say yes to every favor. They never pick the restaurant. If you need them to do something, they're a quick yes, no matter what, even if their life's burning down. But do you ever trust that their yes is actually a yes? Or is this the friend that you're like, don't say yes, think about it. I don't want to burden you. I'm worried that if I ask you for support, you're going to give it when you don't have it to give. Do you ever feel a little uneasy with this friend? Like they're agreeing just to avoid conflict or to make you happy and that you might be asking too much? That is one example of how a lack of boundaries breeds a lack of trust. Because if I'm not sure you'll tell me the truth about what works for you, I can't fully trust our connection. Boundaries, when done well, increase safety and clarity. They make room for mutual respect. Boundaries don't push people away. They tell people how to be close to you. I talk with women all the time that are like, I know what boundary I want to set, but I don't want to damage this relationship. I'm going to see them at networking. I'm going to be sitting next to them at Thanksgiving dinner. I don't want to hurt it. And that is a myth. Relationships with clear boundaries are easier to be in and be in strong connection. Myth number 2, the other person has to agree with or like my boundary. This one is sneaky because it sounds like I tried setting a boundary, but they pushed back. I said what I needed, but they didn't understand, and I got sick of talking about it, so I just gave up. I told them what I needed and they got mad at me. But here's the reframe. People don't have to agree with your boundary. Stay with me. People don't have to agree with your boundary. They just have to cooperate with it if they want to be having continued access to you in that area of your life. Let's say, for example, you tell your partner, I need one weekend morning to myself. They pout, they make comments. That doesn't mean you were wrong to ask for what you need. It means your partner is adjusting to the new terms and they're either going to be cooperative or they're not going to be cooperative. It's uncomfortable for them and maybe for you too. We love homeostasis. So anytime a new boundary is placed, it's like new rules in a game. We like homeostasis, things we can count on. So anytime you set a boundary or change the rules of engagement, there is a growing pain in the relationship where the other person has to get used to and work out the kinks. So it's uncomfortable for them, uncomfortable for you, but boundaries aren't about comfort in the moment. They're about clarity and sustainability, which will build long-term comfort, which is much more important than always feeling at peace every moment. You aren't asking for permission, you're offering structure with a boundary. You're not saying, I want you to love me having a weekend to myself every weekend. You're saying, I'm going to need you to cooperate with this so we can stay in strong connection with my really reasonable ask. There are boundary violators and boundary crossers. There is a difference between them. I have a quick training video on how to spot the difference and why it's important. I'll go ahead and link that into the show notes so you have access to it if that's something you're dealing with, which is a little bit different than the topic we're on today. Myth number 3, boundaries are too uncomfortable for me. Here's what your brain is doing behind the scenes. We love that homeostasis. It loves the familiar, even if familiar is overwhelming or exhausting or flat out not working. So when you do something new, say no or ask for what you need, it feels wrong. Not because it is, but because your brain doesn't have data yet to identify this as safe. That's why the discomfort shows up, and that's why it's not a good reason to stop. You have to ride that wave of discomfort and show your brain something new. That wasn't so bad. I'm capable of this. My relationship is still safe. My partner does cooperate. My partner did want to get on board. The truth is, the discomfort isn't a danger signal. It's a sign you're disrupting a pattern. And that's what growth feels like. So anytime you go from something that's an old habit into a new habit, you will have uncertainty, you will have discomfort, and you don't have new data for your brain yet. So it's a tricky spot to be in, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it. Our fourth myth, I'm setting boundaries, people just don't follow them. Let me tell you a quick story. A client came to me and said, I don't want my toddler having tons of sweets, but it's like I'm the only one who cares. Daycare gives candy bars as rewards. Grandma drops off Fruit Loops. The ice cream truck comes by and boom, we're doing dessert again. This client said, I make comments, I tell people we're cutting back, but no one is listening. It's like I'm setting boundaries and everyone's ignoring them. Here's the reality. There are boundary violators and the boundary crossers, like we talked about. You can find that video linked in the show notes. In this case, there was no actual boundary. There were comments, hints, resentment, but no follow through. A boundary sounds like, we don't do candy prizes, here's a bag of stickers. We collect treats in a jar and enjoy them later. We're skipping the ice cream truck today. Grandma's cereals go in the pantry until next weekend. You can't wait for the world to guess your limits and act accordingly. You have to respect your own boundary first, because if you don't take it seriously, no one else will either. So if you're saying, I'm setting boundaries and people just aren't following them, barring actual boundary violators and situations that are problematic for different reasons. But if you're noticing, I'm setting these boundaries, they're not following them, stop and see if you actually set a boundary. Or did you just complain or vent or make indications without actually saying, oh, this is a non-negotiable, this is okay, this is not okay. Because without that, it's not an actual boundary. So you're not going to have cooperation, even from somebody who's willing to give it. For a quick recap, boundaries don't damage relationships, they clarify them. People don't have to like your boundary. They just need to cooperate with it. So we're not looking for agreement or acceptance. We're looking for somebody that's saying, I will adapt, adjust, and cooperate with the boundary. Discomfort is normal. It's not a sign to stop. If people aren't following your boundary, ask yourself, have I actually set one? If you have, that's a different conversation for another day, and we can definitely get into that. A lot of people that I'm working with will stop and be like, now that you mention it, I did not formally set a boundary. I set one in my mind and I made a comment and it got blown off and I got bulldozed over, but I didn't come back to it. I didn't stop the conversation and say, whoa, I'm serious. I'm setting a boundary here. This is okay. This is not okay. In closing, I want you to know you are allowed to protect what matters to you. You are allowed to make changes in your life. You're allowed to stop over-functioning just because you're really good at it. Boundaries aren't selfish, they're strategic. I like to tell my clients to stop saying selfish and say self-full. And you can lead your personal life with the same clarity and confidence you bring to the boardroom. If this episode resonated with you, hit follow, share this episode with a friend who's overextending herself. We're just getting started. Talk to you soon.